Hello and good evening to all of you. Good evening and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel. My name is Harsh Singh and in this video we shall discuss the current affairs and Gazette magazine for 15th November 2021. Hello and good evening Amlan. Hi Ashish. Good evening Preeti. Hello Zahrur. How are you all? Good to have you all here. So let's begin the Gazette and current affairs discussion for today. Alright, your daily guide to UPSC current affairs. Now, the hot selling articles in the market today, Monday, are first one, the delivery of S-400 Triumph missiles by Russia to India. So we will understand what is the reason that this delivery has begun at this particular point of time, and we will also understand what is the strategic implications in the global geopolitics. Some comparison with USA. Hello Bhavani, good evening to you. The second one is a judgment by Supreme Court on RERA, right? RERA 2016. We will understand what the implication of this judgment is. The third one is Mental Health Atlas 2020, released once in 3 years. Some quick understanding about this, and then we will move to this day in history, which is dedicated to Birsa Munda. Lord Birsa Munda was born on this day, and we have dedicated, the government of India has dedicated Janjatiya Gaurav Divas on his birthday, right? So we will understand about that. Feature news for today is on drug abuse and the abuse of the law. So what are we talking of? We are talking of the NDPS Act, right? So Narcotics, Drugs and Psychoactive, Psychotropic Substances Act. What are the amendments required? Are there some issues in the Act? Is it being exploited to a level more than required? And what are the implications? So this act becomes an important bone of contention, right? Therefore, we will understand what are the different facets of it in the feature news today, 6:45 p.m. All right. The image of the day is on Belarus and Poland border. This crisis has been brewing for quite a long now, quite a while. It's been in the newspapers. We have covered this as an image of the day. Now, this directly does not is related to our syllabus. However, since it is an issue of important, international importance, so I'll make you understand quickly what this issue is about. And all right, then moving ahead, the terms and concepts. The first one is norovirus in news lately, right? And then, all right, nothing to get scared about. Norovirus is not just like coronavirus, not that infectious as corona is. All right, then we have fishing cats and Koringa Wildlife Sanctuary. Where is Koringa Wildlife Sanctuary? Please answer. Then we have climate change as a disease. A person in Canada being diagnosed with climate change as a disease. So many of us are getting affected because of climate change, but none of us say it is climate change. So now we have started to have this as well. And the fourth one is a person from Tamil Nadu. He has been recognized as one of the saints by the Pope himself. So the name of this person, an Indian person, is Deva Sahayam Pillai, right, from Tamil Nadu, from around 250 years back. All right. Editorials, 3 editorials that we cover. One from Observer Research Foundation. It is a huge essay on GeoEconomics of climate finance. I will present a quick summary of the same. It is a very technical one, a quick summary, important one. And the second one is the need to cure Discom's health, right? So we'll understand why do we need to have a better healthy status for the distribution companies, power distribution companies. Quick understanding about it. And another small editorial for today is on creating safe digital spaces for small children, school going children. All right. And one case study from Bangladesh, beautiful one. All right. So let's begin. All right. Shivam, good evening to you. Good evening, Astha, Kriti, Zahrur, Amlan, Priyanshi. Hello. Absolutely correct. Each of you are correct. It's in Andhra Pradesh, right? So that is one place which is known for these cats, right? These cats are twice the size. We will study about them in the terms. All right, snapshot for the day. The first one is on S400 Triumph deal, right? This deal is very much popular. Why? Because this deal has happened in between India and Russia, and the deal is to procure these S400 missiles worth billions of dollars. S400, right? There's an extra zero here. Now, these missiles are multiple action missiles. They are better than the American missiles, right? So the American missile, what is the American counterpart for this missile? Can anybody tell me that? The name of the American missile? That American missile has got a trajectory which has, now that particular American missile has a THAAD system, right? Terminally high altitude area defense. This is what it enables. This is the American system. And then in contrary, we have the S400 Triumph system. Now, S400 Triumph has got many rocket launchers and there are different dimensions, different sizes, and different area coverage, whereas the American system does not have such a dynamic system as S400 Triumph is, right? This is also more dynamic and more accurate than the American system. India went ahead with it, right? No harm about it. But America and India also have got certain association, and America was forcing India to have the American weaponry system itself, right? Absolutely correct. Patriot missiles, absolutely correct. Patriot missiles are the one which are enabled with USA, and with Patriot missiles, America forms the THAAD system, right? Now, India needs self-defense mechanisms. India has got some indigenous capacities, but to have these kind of intercepting missiles, the technology required is very advanced. So India seeks support of countries like Israel and then Russia to develop these kind of weaponry systems. India also has got its own, right? But see, imagine a weapon coming, an incoming missile coming at 2 Mach, 3 Mach speed, right? At a speed of around 2,000, 3,000 kilometers, right? Now, in fact, Triumph is able to handle weapons which come at a speed of around 5 kilometers per second, 5 kilometers per second incoming. Now, this is the kind of accuracy. We not only have to be able to spot the missile with the radar, we also have to hit it accurately, intercept it accurately at a very small distance also, maybe 50 kilometers, 30 kilometers, right, 80 kilometers above our own defense grounds. So this is why Triumph was triumphant, right, over the American missile. But it does have, we have covered this segment previously, but it does have international ramifications and repercussions. What are they? Firstly, what are the pros? What are the good things? Russia and India have always been allies in defense sector, and they also are holding 2+2 dialogue, right? 2+2 dialogue. So defense ministers and foreign ministers, both of them will meet. So this is a strategic dialogue, right? For defense of the country, for security of both the countries, and the delivery of the missiles is just ahead of it. So it indicates some good rapport between these two countries. Absolutely correct. What about CAATSA? So there is an act in, passed in America's parliament. It says countering America's adversaries through sanctions act. America has sanctioned 3 countries. Those 3 countries are Iran, North Korea, and Russia, right? And also those countries which are associated in defense and strategic fields with these countries. India is associated with Russia. India is associated with Iran. And that is the reason that America might have some sanctions against India. But it will also have to weigh its cost benefit, right? So this is what we will understand. This is how, this article has been very beautifully framed. It does not only talk about the factual aspects of it, it also speaks about the analytical aspects of it, whether America will sanction India or not. In fact, America might not sanction India, most probably. See, in America had some sanctions against Iran, and because of that, India had to curtail some amount of, in fact, substantial amount of oil from Iran. Iran, in fact, was second in number as far as the petroleum reserves import from Iran to India were concerned earlier. But because of sanctions of USA and European Union against Iran, India had to curtail down its oil supplies from Iran. India had to look at other countries, Iraq and other countries. So now India will not bow down and cow down this time. Why? Let's know why. See, first of all, India has its own national security considerations, right? Now, if this missile is better for us, why not purchase this one? So this is first thing. And the second one is easier integration of S400. India already has got Russian supplies, no? So this is far more easier to integrate in a system as compared to American. Also, Russia is the one which will happily repair these systems. Russia might even later transfer the technology to us, unlike America. America does not do it for developing countries like us, right? Does not transfer technology. Now, this is also an assertion of strategic autonomy. Now, this is one important point that you can put in, right? How India is behaving in these times, right? So, this becomes valuable point. And yes, Zahrur says Turkey, yeah, absolutely Turkey also. We'll come to it. We'll come to that. So, India earlier stopped buying Iranian fuel, right? But India is not stopping to buy Russian missiles here this time, right? Because India has already had a huge amount of Indian defense, which is Russian owned, right? So India already is maintaining a huge amount of it. But by the way, India also pays a huge cost for it, right? Russia wants it, all its gadgets and all its equipments to be maintained by Russia itself. I had explained in one of the tank series, right? One of the series in which I was explaining of the T-72 tank, and its comparison with Arjun that India made. So the T-72, even a small spare part of it, right, nut, bolt or chain of this tank, if it is, has to be repaired, they take humongous amount of money from us. The Russians also. Each of them will exploit us, right? The just idea is who will enable, technology transfer, who will be a friend in the adverse times. Now, let me ask you a question. Does China own S400 Triumph or not? Has Russia sold it to China or not? That's the question. India is primarily targeting to defend itself from countries like Pakistan and China. And China owns these missiles. In fact, Russia later on, 2018-19, these were deployed with China. And what's happening in Europe, let's understand that also. We'll understand that quickly. European Union and other countries in the Europe and East Europe, and aside Russia, there are two parties. One is favoring Russia and the other one is favoring USA, right? So when we talk of European Union countries like Poland, like Lithuania, right, like Latvia, now these are European Union countries, and they are integrated with European Union. They are also protected through NATO forces, right? So America has deployed its THAAD system right here, Patriot missiles with Poland. On the other hand, Russia definitely wants that Belarus also has it. So Belarus is one of the countries which was which got partitioned after USSR disintegration, right? So Russia is associated with Belarus. But if you look at the Russian neighborhood, I'm talking of Crimean Peninsula, and then Ukraine. Russia and Ukraine have, they don't look at each other eye to eye. They are not happy with each other because Russia took the Crimean Peninsula to itself in the year 2014. So now here, if America has Patriot missiles, America will have its S-400. Similarly, if what is happening in South Korea is the same thing. America is deploying its Patriot missiles and China is irked with it. North Korea is not happy with it. So these are the kind of games these countries are playing, and all they want is that their missiles be sold, right? So in this series, they have also discovered a new missile, a hypersonic missile. Till now we have had ballistic missiles and cruise missiles. Now hypersonic is another race, just like we have this, multiple missile defense systems, right? So the reason America will not sanction India in this case right now is one, they both are close allies in Quad, the four countries, right? America, India, we have Japan and Australia. This is first reason. The second reason here is that India is one of the important parts in the Asia Pacific region. So it can actually help increase some of the intent of USA in Asia Pacific region. Why should America then, sanction a country like India, somebody who can be actually a friend? And India is also a potential purchaser from America, right? America, Israel, India started to purchase a lot of equipment, gadgets. And we have had so many agreements in the past, Comcasa, Lemoa, Beka. So these agreements have only told that India will have a stronger integration, military integration with America. So some of the agreements are like sharing of the logistics. For example, refueling of aircrafts, refueling of the ships. Right, there are some of them which are sharing the communication devices for better interoperability, right? So these are the important ingredients because of which America will not want to have a cold relation with India on this, right? And already the arms deal with America is increasing with time. We've seen so many missile systems and weaponry systems, air force systems being imported from America itself. So this is the reason here, right? So this is a quick understanding of what is happening about S400. All right. China tested, failed. All right. So moving ahead, yeah, Turkey is another country there involved, right? So all right. So Supreme Court RERA jurisdiction verdict. So Supreme Court has said that there will be a retrospective applicability of RERA, right? So Real Estate Regulation and Development Act, which was passed in the year 2016, its primary aim was to enable the purchasers of homes, right, in the real estate arena. What used to happen is that the people who were builders, they would take humongous amount of money in their own bank accounts. Later on, they would declare bankruptcy, and beyond that, the person who has earned their bread and they wanted to survive through this kind of asset, they would be left helpless. So many of them used to go to courts, high courts, and then later Supreme Courts. And later on, the government passed this act called as Real Estate Regulation and Development Act. One of the important provisions I remember of this act is that there will be an escrow account. So this is a third party account. Now suppose if I am the consumer, I am the one who wants the property, and this property is for 20 lakh rupees, right? So a certain sum of money I'll be paying beforehand in an account. This account is not that of the builder, right? The builder will have a separate account, and only after the flat is made, the possession is given to me, will this amount be transferred from this escrow account, right, idle account, to the builder, right? So my money is also safe. The builder has not consumed my money. So these are the ways, this is one of the ways through which this was a safety net created for the consumers, right, and result consumers. Now the update here is, can we have the retrospective applicability of this act? This is what Supreme Court has now come up with, saying that yes, we can have the retrospective amendments, retrospective applicability of this act. The intent of legislation when it was passed in 2016 was that they should be given, the people should be given rights, right? So those projects which are ongoing projects, and those projects for which are going to commence, right, those projects would be covered under this. But projects which have already been delivered, they won't be covered under this, right? So this is what is Supreme Court stand on this. It also says that it creates new levels of obligations, right, certain obligations, because of course it is a retrospective amendment, and it will create furore in those streams where people start to demand rights. So there will be creation of new obligations, right? This is what the court has held, right? Now certain states have not understood, are not in sync with these kind of provisions, right? One simple example is Telangana, right? So Telangana has excluded the ongoing projects, right, for under the purview of RERA. So Telangana will have to amend these provisions. Certain other states also need to amend these provisions. So this is the update from that end, right? So these are good judgments, and the court tries to balance the rights, duties of each of the stakeholders. This is how it does, right? Zarur talks about Apache Chinook. Yeah, Apache Chinook, C-130, right? Globemaster. There's so many of them we have taken from America, right? Apache is the attack helicopter, and Chinook is the transport helicopter, right? Retrospective. What is retrospect? Retrospect is the, so there are two kinds of amendments. See, retrospective is if today is the date, if today is, what date is it today? Today is 15th, no? 15th of November. So can we make changes so that the applicability of the changes that I have made can be imposed on something that was done previously? This can be done in civil cases. This cannot be done in the criminal cases. This can be done in litigation, civil ones. So the point being, suppose if government says the taxation on biscuit is 10% today, but they feel that the taxation on the biscuit should be raised to 15% retrospectively. So retrospectively means they might say that we will impose this tax since the times of COVID, because we feel so. So 15% taxation will be applicable from 1 year behind this particular date also. This is the retrospective amendment. It can only happen to civil cases, not the criminal cases, right? All right. The third one is Mental Health Atlas 2020, right? So United Nations, World Health Organization, one of the associate bodies, it has recently released the Mental Health Atlas. This is released once in 3 years only. So it has got some important data statistics about the mental health resource present. It has also mapped the presence of mental health abilities present and what is the prevalence, right? So let us quickly have a look at it, right? So the first thing is that, are we reporting the mental health or not? Yes, reporting has improved with time, and earlier as many as 19%, that was the number of countries, percentage of countries which were not reporting it. Now it is only 15%, right? A gap of 5% in 6 years. So it has only reduced. It is a good change. Then many of the countries do have a policy. Does India have a policy on mental health? Yes. We don't only have a policy, we have a full-fledged act on this. But are we spending that much? No, we are not spending. We are, let me give you a brief figure of this. India has to be spending by the state. So complete spending on health is around 3.6 3.6% of the GDP. 3.6% of the GDP, complete spending on health. So this includes public and private spending both. But the government spending here is hardly 1.24%, hardly this much on health, complete health. So this comes to only one third of the net spending. Rest of the spending is from out of pocket. So out of 3 rupees, 2 rupees are spent by the poor or rich persons of India in their own medical health care, and 1 rupee is spent by the government. And the idea is to increase this 1.25 to 2.5% in the coming, just a few years, 2-3 years. This is the target, but this has been the target ever since. And if you speak of the mental health condition, of this 1.24%, it is hardly 1% of this. Hardly 1% of this is the spending on mental health care. You can imagine what is the frugality, what is the reason for such less expenditure of for mental health status. Of course, it is underrated. It is very much underrated in India, the situation of mental health, and one of the most deprived ones of these are the student community, the farmer community, the deprived people. They're even if they are aware, nothing can happen. There is a social stigma attached to it. And this is where the government should be increasing the number of social activists, the workers, the healthcare workers who could talk freely to people around, but that is only getting enabled slowly and steadily. All right. So 75% of the member states have a standalone policy for mental health system governance, India being one of them, right? But if you see the financial and human resources allotted, they are meager in low and middle income countries. They are meager, right? So they are as meager as 13 persons per 1 lakh population, right? This is the global average, and the situation is very, very poor in poorer countries. All right. Hospital beds similarly, specifically to the mental health condition, just below 2 in 1 lakh population. So this is very, very meager. This is what is the crux of it, right? Now, just a few days back, we had studied that WHO had excluded the community-based mental health. If you remember, WHO had excluded community-based mental health rejuvenation as far as the community was involved, right? So there is an update from that end also. All right. So these are the 3 snapshots that we have for today. Shravan Sharma is asking, if we watch this video, then is it necessary to read the Gazette? See, there are a lot of things that you will be able to cover with me itself, right? But to be able to know those keywords, either you have to, pause the video, or immediately after the Gazette and feature news are over, you go through the video again. And in fact, the text is very much clear. If it is not clear, you might have to refer the Gazette magazine, but it will definitely, in case, even if you're reading it, it will simplify your process of reading. Plus, I also present the context of it and what is happening in the magazine and a little beyond, right? So you will be able to get the head and tail also alongside. I will say that once you are, a few days, few weeks with the magazine and video, slowly and steadily you can switch over to the video only. And as far as magazine is concerned, there are some articles in which there are very, very important keywords. So note them down separately in case you're not able to look at those keywords right in the screen, right? So this is what is my input regarding Gazette video and the news, right? Otherwise, if you feel that difficulty, it hardly takes a second to download this. You can refer to the video, and alongside, after the video, you can go ahead and quickly look at the magazine and note down the key points. All right. So then we have a question. All right, none. All right, welcome Zahrur. All right, then we have this Janjatiya Gaurav Divas. Janjatiya means the tribal community, right? Janjati is tribal community. So one of the tribal superheroes leaders has been Birsa Munda, right? Just at the age of 25 years, he sacrificed his life for the cause of tribal uprising, tribal welfare. And this tribal uprising there in Jharkhand was called as Ulgulan, right? Ulgulan. And he fought for tribal rights, basically Munda rights at those places. And later he was also given the designation of a god, right? A god in the, in those times. And he died in the year 1900, and only after a huge revolution in the whole state in Ranchi jail, right? So this is an update from his life, all right? Treated as a very, very revered as a very important personality for tribals around the country. Drug abuse and abuse of the law, right? Very important article, contradicting principles here, but we will understand what are the issues with this, what are the solutions. What are the solutions not only through the act, but what are the solutions to counter drug menace in our country, right? So an important act. It has been in news very much because of the case of Aryan Khan. All right. So we will not discuss the film stars here, but we will understand the criticalities of what is required in UPSC exam. All right. Okay. Image of the day. Image of the day. Let me highlight to you this part. Right. Very interesting, but humanitarian crisis emerging at the Belarus-Poland border. What is happening here? So you see, one side is Belarus border, and you know, there is a no man's land, and then this is the Belarus side, and this is the Polish side, Poland. Right, there are Polish armed personals here, right? We have armed guards, and we also seem to have some military personals, and these are the civilians here, right? Are these people of Belarus? No, they are not. Where are they from? They are from Middle East. They are from Middle East, the countries which are rocked because of turbulence, you know, internal conflicts. They are from Afghanistan. They are from other countries in Central Asian region, and they have started to migrate to Belarus through Central Asia, and now they want to enter some better developed countries in the European Union, Poland being one, Lithuania, and other countries associated in this area, right? Eastern Europe being others. Now, Europe is opposing this movement. Why? Because it will lead to the burden of incoming population to Europe. Absolutely correct. But Belarus is not helping at all. In fact, people have interviewed, and they have themselves said that we were given these, you know, we were given devices so that we could cut these nets and get across. So people also got across. Now, the political crisis here is that there are two sides to it. One is Europe, along with that is USA, and they are accusing Belarus. On the other hand, who is to come? Of course, Russia has to come. So Russia is in side of Belarus, and Mr. Putin has already said that the crisis has been created by USA and Europe itself. If you attacked and if you destabilized the Middle Eastern countries and Afghanistan and Iraq and other countries, these people are bound to move to some places which are more peaceful. So now you start accepting them. So this is the humanitarian crisis that has arisen in this area, right? Now, if you know a little about Belarus history, the president of Belarus is almost dictatorial. Now, this is how, you know, countries and you know, media of foreign countries also would report our you know, subcontinent premiers also, if you get what I'm saying. But point being, a few months back, the Belarus president, he had ensured that one of the flights, one of the running airlines, it stopped, it was diverted and it stopped because one of the political leaders who was opposing the Belarus president, he was in that particular flight, right? So these are the kind of things that are happening in Eastern Europe. Also one important thing, Poland is also defying certain EU norms, right? So the jurisdiction of Polish courts, is that higher, or is the jurisdiction of European courts, European Union courts higher? This is another debate, but this is inside the European Union itself. Now here, this is a different context. This was also news, definitely not related to UPSC examination, right? So that is why we did not discuss this. This is about international relations, people having political science, international relations options. They should be looking into these, but just telling you the updates. And this crisis is European Union versus the outsiders, all right? So this is the update here, all right? Thompson Concepts for today. All right, Thompson Concepts, you guys there? If you guys are there, you like this initiative, just put thumbs up, right? So that will be a booster for all of us here. All right, Thompson Concept, the first term and concept for you today is the norovirus. This has been found now in Kerala, and this is not as hazardous as you think it might be. It will not result in lockdowns. And this is an animal-borne disease, right? Basically about health and hygiene. If you do not take care of your health and hygiene, it might disrupt your gastrointestinal system. It might cause diarrhea, so loss of fluid from the body. And if you take care of yourself, and it won't happen, yes, it will affect the vulnerable sections, the children, the elders, and people with comorbidity situations more than the others. Norovirus, remember that. All right, that is why news. Fishing cats. These cats are almost double in size to the regular cats, and of course they fish, right? So they eat fishes. That is why they are called as fishing cats. Now these are endangered species. And now the government has now planned, in fact, Wildlife Institute of India, they have planned that they will be tagging these cats, right, with certain kind of collars, so that one can know where they move, what they do, what is their habitat, right? They are also adept swimmers, because of which they are able to look for their prey, right? So where is this happening? This is happening in Koringa Wildlife Sanctuary in Andhra Pradesh. Each of you correct answers. All right. These cats are nocturnal, as mentioned right there. Okay. Climate change as a disease. See, Now, this is something that we have been studying in various different contexts, but we never spoke of it outrightly. Why? Because it was, something that was so sensitive. How would people be able to talk as, I am affected with climate change? I can't say that. Of course, I am affected, but I will not be saying that. I'll just say I've got cold and cough because of, change of season. But the reality is we have gotten infected because of climate change. Now, imagine we have studied so many issues, right? Injury, mortality, any climate disaster and resulting into injury and mortality. Can we not say we are affected because of climate change, right? Diseased because of climate change. We are. What about respiratory illness? Look at industrial countries around the world, right? Look at if you are looking at AQI, why are you looking just at India? Look at China. Look at Beijing. Look at Shanghai. Look at other countries in Southeast Asia. They're all polluted with because of respiratory illness, and this is not the case with developed countries, right? Heat-related illness. We have studied that there'll be increase in heat-related illness in the coming times. People will die because of situations like flu. What is this? Climate disaster. We will not call it just flu. Climate disaster. Waterborne diseases, right? So many cyclones, Amphan. Then we have you name it, and they are the cyclones only, right? So one of the important cyclones last year was the cyclone Amphan, and then we had Tauktae. So all of them, waterborne diseases, right? Impacting us. Zoonosis. There's so many diseases which get transmitted from the animals to humans. Zoonotic diseases spread during the times of these kind of crises. Then we have vector-borne diseases, food-borne diseases, malnutrition, non-communicable, and mental and psychological illness. Look at that. There is no end to how climate can actually impact us. And that is the reason that first time the patient was diagnosed with asthma, and it was said that they have been diagnosed with climate change, right? So climate change has resulted in this particular issue. Climate change, and by the way, which country has declared this? It is Canada, right? Developed country only can dare to declare an issue like this, right? Because a country like India, this is a new disease, a new burden. What will they do with it, right? It will just be in conversation. But a country like Canada can do a lot about it, right? See, it is noted that 930 million people around the world spend at least 10% of the household budget in healthcare. What I mentioned, even more than that, right? So you present that kind of data, right? Two-third of the expenditure on health is out of pocket, OOP, out of pocket expenditure. Do remember these kind of keywords and terms and stats. Very, very important, right? And what is total required is for government to increase it from 1.2% to 2.5. Okay. Cyclone Gulab, there's so many of them. At least 10 of them which hit India in the last 1 year. Fourth storm is Devasahayam Pillai. Now, who is this person? He was here in the 18th century, and he was born in the 18th century, and he was born in a high caste in the Hindu family in Tamil Nadu, right? And later he converted to Christianity on some influence from somebody from the Dutch East India Company. And after he converted, he started to fight for equality of people, and this is where he had to sacrifice his life. For the same reason, he was awarded sainthood after his death. Now, he died many years back, but he was awarded he was canonized. That means he was awarded sainthood because of his noble acts, right? So that is why we will remember Devasahayam Pillai, right? A factual but yet relevant one, because he's been awarded at that stature, at that level, right? Becomes important. All right, editorials of the day. Let's quickly discuss all the 3 editorials, and after that the case study for today. Okay, so what is the first editorial for today? The first editorial for today is on creating safe digital spaces. This has been written by an IS officer, senior IS officer. And what have they written? They have written that there is a virtual world. There is a virtual world. It impacts everybody else, everybody, children, elders, everybody. But the way it impacts, although it is a virtual world, and yet the children cannot forget the impacts of it. It impacts the real health of child, physical health, mental health, psychological well-being, emotional well-being, all of it, right? And during the times when school have gotten closed, children are going through unsupervised content, unsupervised interactions with other people online. And the bullying that used to happen in school spaces, physical spaces, that has started to happen in online spaces also. right? So school related violence, right? They are hindering with the right to education and health and well-being of the child. So see, whenever, this is something very interesting that I have observed in many editorials. Whenever you talk about any issues with any particular section of society, any social context issue, you straight away relate it to the constitution. See, so school related violence hampers the right to education and health and well-being. See, this is one of the good ways to begin writing any article as well. Probably answer also. It can give you some food for thoughts. Think about it, right? So this is the reason that UNESCO has declared this year itself, starting the first Thursday of November, as the International Day Against Violence and Bullying at School, including cyberbullying. Okay, so this year this day has begun. So this year it was 4th of November. Next year it will be a different day, but first Thursday of November will be declared by UNESCO as this particular day against cyberbullying, against bullying at school places. And you'd be surprised to know that 14% of internet users in our country, in India, are small children, 5 to 11 of age. And 2/3 of the internet users in India are from the age 12 to 29. That means teenage and very young adults up to the age of 29. 2/3 of the users of internet are these small people, right? So you can well imagine how it will impact the psychology of the child. I take for me as an example, if I watch anything horror, it impacts my psychology. Sometimes I'm not even able to sleep. And I remember there are times when if somebody threatens me online, I also feel not comfortable. So I'm not talking of right now, but previously. I can imagine what would happen to a small child, 12 years, 11 years, 15 years, right? That time, none of us watching this video probably had these phones. None of us had these kind of access. But right now, we have children of age 7, 8, 10. They all have access to YouTube. They have access to other social media as well, and they have access to so many kind of people who can bully them online, right? So what is required? What is required is proper training. See, although school might not be involved in bullying, but school can actually help in prevention of all this. School can help, the teachers, the counselors can help them understand the situation so that they may be able to respond in the best possible manner. This is what has the senior IS officer written here, right? So it says, see, many of the children, especially gender specific important remarks. See, many of these children have been from the disabled community, right? And some of them have been quite a good standard of it. They have been minority as well. So somehow it indicates that this is also inclined or inclined against the minority communities or disabled communities as well. Some kind of bullying. See, bullying is not only sexual in nature, right? It is also mental. It is also, some kind of, imposing one's view on the other, those things, right? So this is the first editorial about, right? All right. The second one is on GeoEconomics of climate finance. A huge article, but I will quickly tell you what is the summary of it. So this was in the Observer Research Foundation, one of its important essays. It is a series of essays. I'll quickly tell you what it means, right? So it says that there is a huge requirement of $2.4 trillion amount by the year 2035 only in energy sector if we want the climate change not to impact us badly. So this huge amount is required by the year 2035, right? So India itself has claimed $1 trillion. And many countries have combined claim $1.3 trillion. There is no reason for what they are claiming, but for that particular amount that they are claiming. But this is what ORF says: $2.4 trillion by 2035 only in the energy sector, right? Now, but all of these are promises only. What is fulfilled? Fulfilled is very, very less. In fact, there is a huge gap into what has been promised and what has been given to people. If you look at the example, India as a developing country should have gotten some or the other resources, right? International resources, funding for climate change aversion. But 85% of the resources that India could garner, funds that India could garner for climate change mitigation, they were from domestic sources. 85% in the year 2018. This is one. More than 60% of the funding that was promised by European Union, it was diverted to European countries itself. Imagine that. So what are we talking of? Are we talking of these kind of funds being utilized by developing countries or not? If we are, it is not happening. This is the first point that the editorial, this particular article, complete essay makes. So it says that there are important things required here. First important suggestion it says is the role of multilateral development banks. Now, there are national banks and there are multilateral development banks. Funds with multilateral development banks are not as much available, and it is required that funds be increased. This is one. And second, that these banks could act as risk guarantors and bridge. So suppose this financial body, suppose this is JICA, right? Japan Investment and Commerce Association, and they want to fund in India. They want to fund a project in India. We can have multilateral development banks, these banks, as intermediaries. In case they are not able to fulfill the funding requirement, they will be filling the funding requirements. These banks will also act as risk guarantors. In case something happens to the fund, these banks will be able to give it back to the developed countries. So we need multilateral development banks. See, these are the kind of opinions you will not get in usual answers, nowhere else apart from reading these kind of important articles. We are summarizing it for you. So use this term multilateral development bank, right? Risk guarantor and bridge between the climate investor and the recipient. Very, very important keyword, right? This will come up in any of the climate change articles of paper 3, right? So important one. The second one it says is that international finance norms which maintain stringent levels of risk assessment do not suit well for long-term climate projects. It wants to say that there are norms from Switzerland, no? So Switzerland has a bank, BIS, right? If you remember what the full form is, anybody? BIS in Switzerland. So they have got some Basel norms, right? So Basel norms have very strict norms of who to be given loan or who not to be given, and they are not appropriate as far as the climate projects are concerned. So for climate projects, you will have to decrease your standards a little, and that is why we need different standards for climate projects. This is the second important thing that this essay mentions. Then it says that for the same reason, now we have got a taxonomy and methodology addressing information asymmetry. This becomes very important. So every country has got different parameter of judging how much amount of global warming gases, GHG, have been produced, or how well they are trying to mitigate. Countries have different parameters. Can we have the similar standards so that all countries are at the same level, and then we can match up, right? So that is the reason that we need same methodology, taxonomy, addressing information asymmetry, right? And also disclosing the finances, right? Disclosing the finances and climate change goals, right? Which many of the developing countries have not done. All right, BIS, absolutely, Bank of International Settlement, and it also has this these norms, certain of these norms. All right, this is the second part. It says, then it says that RBI has also requested for the same, and for that same reason that we have formed a climate related finance disclosure, right? Climate related finance disclosure was announced, and a task force on this has been announced, right? Now what is required is to have institutional investors whose role becomes very primary for investing in these kind of projects, especially in developed countries. This is one. And the fourth point is having technology transfer, financing, and capacity building to achieve these goals, right? So all I would say is here, remember these 4 pointers: multilateral development banks, then international finance norms have to be managed for climate finance. Then the third one is the information asymmetry. This has to be symmetrized, right? So taxonomy methodology has to be developed. And the fourth one is the greening of financial investments, right? These have to be done by the investors. So these 4 things you should remember here. Okay. All right. Now there is a question from Zahrur. Zahrur says online bullying means what? Online bullying. How do I tell you? How do I tell you what it means? Online bullying is like, so you saw what happened to Kohli, no? Virat Kohli. So somebody says giving rape threats to his child or something. This is what is online bullying. This is even more than that. This is threatening the other person with their life. Online bullying is a little lesser severe than that, where we bully the other person. We give shoulder push to somebody physically. What do we do in the online spaces? We tell them, you don't know anything. You don't know, anything. You just get lost from here, right? You are speaking, something, right? So beep. That is what is online bullying. Respecting each other's opinion, understanding each other, that is what is required. Online bullying is superimposing one's own opinion and one's own persona on the other person, right? All right. Need to cure DISCOM's health first. See, it says that we have discussed this Energy Conservation Act amendments. Important amendments were proposed, and what were the amendments by the Ministry of? It said that we must have a mechanism through which we are able to sell the renewable energy. So, see, enhanced demand for renewable energy for the end use sectors, right? So, industry, buildings, transport sector, we need more demand of renewable energy, and for it to be sold, we need a mechanism for its selling also, right? So, these are the two things that were mandated as new changes in the Energy Conservation Act. But it says even if you do all these changes, it will not be effective unless and until we empower the distribution companies, because all these power purchases will happen through distribution companies only. If they are in loss, if they are not able to maintain profits, they will not be able to handle this also. They are already not able to handle what is in the scenario, the conventional energy sources. How will they be able to handle the new sources, right? Now, this is where it goes on to say that government tried n number of mechanisms. Uday scheme was there, launched in 2015-16. Then huge amount of money being injected in the economy. Then direct benefit transfer also happened. Then we had ACS ARR ratio. So ACS ARR ratio, what is that? Average cost of supply. Average cost of supply, and we have discussed this. I've discussed this previously in one of the articles. Income totality, the issues with power sector. ACS is average cost of supply, and ARR is average revenue realized, right? So this is the cost of supply, right? And this is the revenue realized. If the revenue realized is less but cost of supply is more, that means there is loss. If the cost of supply to the company is more, and if the revenue realized is less, that means it is a loss to the company, right? So all these are the indicators, and these all have failed. Uday scheme has also failed, right? This ratio of ACSS ARR is dismal for the government companies, but still there is a hope, right? The statistics again provide some hope. The statistics, the editorial says that renewable generation was 9% in the year 2019, and then 12% in the year 2021. The installed capacity was more, but generation was less, right? Because renewable energy right now only in the budding stages. Also, the targets are very high. We have to reach 50% of renewable generation by the year 2030. Do remember this, right? So this is what is required: 500 gigawatt of renewable generation. This is what is demanded. This is how the editorial ends. It says that yeah, it is possible to achieve all that. All right. Okay, trolling. Ashish gives a good example. Trolling is a good example of somebody bullying each other, right? Now, this case study, a beautiful one, is from Bangladesh. It is a case study against global warming. See, there is global warming happening, and Bangladesh is also a country which has mangrove vegetation around the rivers, and therefore saline water also comes in. It comes in, and the land gets inundated, filled with saline water, and it also spoils not only the crops but the soil itself. So can a place have a kind of cultivation? Look at this image, so beautiful, where we are able to cultivate without the presence of soil. Can you name that type of cultivation where cultivation happens without the presence of soil? We have discussed this. This is what is happening in Bangladesh, and without the help of soil. All right, it is called as hydroponics, right? With the help of water and some important nutrition, things are getting cultivated. Now, what are they able to do here is that they are able to set up bamboo structures on which there will be floating vegetation, and because of this, they will be able to cultivate all that is required, right? So these also will be those varieties which are natural. They will also be resistant to any kind of changes, for example, changes in the pH level. So this is a very good step from Bangladesh, and this technique of soil free cultivation is called as RERA or DHAP, right? So this is how this cultivation technique in Bangladesh has been very much appreciated during these times. Use them in your GS answers, in environment answers, in geography answers, right? All right, aquaponics, hydroponics, absolutely correct, all of you, right? Now, this is where we come to the conclusion of the Gazette discussion. Just like this initiative if you like this initiative, right? Do put some comments if you find something useful here. and I will see you quickly in the next video, that is the featured news video on NDPS Act, its issues and what are the important ways out. All right, so thank you for watching, and do share, subscribe and like this initiative so that we are able to serve you even better. Thank you for watching.